Have you ever looked at your partner, the same person you once couldn't wait to spend forever with, and felt something had changed? Maybe it's not a sharp break, but a slow drift, a distance growing in the quiet spaces between conversations. The warmth that once felt effortless now feels harder to reach. The laughter, the admiration, even the intimacy fading, replaced by tension, silence, or even resentment. You're not alone. In fact, this shift is one of the most common experiences among long term couples and especially for women. It's not just a mystery of the heart. There are real practical and emotional reasons why women's feelings toward their husbands is often evolve over time. In today's video, we're going to explore these reasons in depth. We'll uncover the emotional journey that many women silently walk, and more importantly, we'll look at what couples can do to reconnect, how they can rebuild a relationship that once felt like home, and perhaps rediscover the love that brought them together in the first place. So stay with us until the end, because what you learn today may not only change your perspective, it might just save your marriage. Before we begin, if this message resonates with you, please take a second to like this video. It helps us spread timeless lessons that many couples need to hear. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. If you're watching and finding value, comment 1 below. If not, comment 0. Your feedback helps us grow and serve you better. Now let's get into the first powerful insight. 1. The passage of time and changing expectations. One of the most significant reasons why a woman's feelings toward her husband may change is surprisingly simple but deeply impactful time. When a couple first falls in love, their world is colored with excitement, anticipation, and idealism. Everything feels new. The smallest gestures feel magical. Quirks are charming, differences are intriguing, and there's a shared belief that love, pure, passionate, enduring love, will be enough to conquer anything. In those early days, a woman may admire her partner's ambition, laugh at his corny jokes, or overlook his messy habits with affection. His spontaneity might feel adventurous, his lighthearted nature comforting. But time has a way of revealing the contrast between fantasy and reality. As the years pass, life inevitably gets heavier. Responsibilities multiply, careers, finances, parenting, family obligations, and stress becomes a constant background hum. What once felt effortless now requires deliberate effort. The quirks she once embraced might now feel like irritations. That same ambition. It may now resemble obsession with work. His lightheartedness. It might now feel like avoidance. The way he never picked up his socks, no longer cute, just exhausting. And here's the deeper truth: people evolve. Experiences shape them. Challenges change their priorities. Growth changes their needs. But sometimes, couples don't grow in the same direction. While some partners deepen their bond over time, adapting and evolving together, others find themselves quietly drifting apart, unable to recognize the person they once knew so intimately. A woman who once found joy in her husband's energy may now crave emotional depth. Where once she tolerated emotional distance or poor communication, she now longs for presence, partnership, and real connection. In the early stages of marriage, she may have made excuses. He's not good with words, or he's under a lot of pressure. But over time, especially as she grows into her own maturity and those excuses lose weight, her emotional expectations evolve. She begins to desire more, not just shared tasks and financial support, but emotional attunement, meaningful conversation, and mutual respect. What she once brushed off as just the way he is may now feel like a refusal to grow with her. It's also important to understand how societal change plays a role. In previous generations, women were taught to accept certain dynamics without question. The husband was often the primary decision maker, while the wife was expected to carry the emotional and domestic burdens, often without acknowledgement. But that's changed. Women today are more aware of their needs and more willing to ask, is this relationship fulfilling me? Am I still growing here? Am I seen, heard, valued? And if the answer is no, if the relationship feels stagnant, one-sided, or emotionally barren, the sense of disconnect deepens. Resentment grows in the silence. And often the husband has no idea it's happening until the distance feels unbridgeable. But here's the hopeful part. It's not the passage of time that damages love. It's what couples do or don't do with that time. The couples who check in with each other, who nurture intimacy, who adapt and grow together, they tend to stay strong, even in the face of life's chaos. But for those who ignore the emotional gaps, who fail to acknowledge shifting expectations and personal growth, the result is a widening emotional chasm that can feel almost impossible to close. 2. The changing roles and imbalance of responsibility. Another major source of emotional distance comes from something many women silently carry: an unequal distribution of responsibilities, both seen and unseen. In the early years of marriage, things may seem manageable. Roles might appear evenly split or at least less defined. But over time, many women begin to shoulder an overwhelming share of the load, managing the household, raising children, supporting education, maintaining emotional balance for the family, planning meals, organizing birthdays, smoothing over conflicts, scheduling doctor's appointments, and often doing all of this while managing a career. Even in modern relationships where men are more involved than past generations, there remains an invisible layer of labor that often falls on the woman's shoulders. It's not just chores. It's emotional labor, the mental, emotional, and logistical effort of holding the family together. She remembers everything, plans everything, and worries about everyone. And as time goes on, she begins to notice a pattern. She's running the household not as a partner, but as the central command unit, while her husband assumes that providing financially is enough. It's not that financial contribution doesn't matter, it does. But when a woman feels emotionally unsupported, unseen, or left to carry the entire mental and emotional burden, resentment builds. Quietly, deeply. And then, as children grow older and gain more independence, you'd think her responsibilities would decrease. But often, they just evolve. Now she's supporting emotional development, navigating teenage struggles, helping with career choices, managing aging parents, and still trying to maintain a career into marriage. If her husband has remained passive or unaware through these seasons, the contrast becomes painfully clear. She begins to feel not like a partner, but like a solo operator within the marriage. The emotional exhaustion that builds over years can turn even the smallest request or forgotten task into a flashpoint. It's not about the dishes. It's about the invisible weight she carries and the growing awareness that she's been carrying it alone. Caring without support, the emotional weight of one-sided responsibility between raising children, managing a career, and often overseeing the emotional well-being of extended family members, many women find themselves spread impossibly thin. And when there's little or no genuine partnership in handling these responsibilities, it starts to wear on them, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Imagine trying to juggle 100 little details every day: school schedules, grocery lists, emotional support for everyone in the house, care for aging parents, career deadlines, and doing it all while feeling invisible. Over time, even the strongest woman may start to feel undervalued, unappreciated, or simply alone. When this dynamic continues unchecked, it chips away at the emotional bond she once felt for her husband. The closeness that once held them together becomes blurred by exhaustion and resentment. And without intervention, this emotional distance only grows. What's even more painful is that many women in this situation begin to withdraw emotionally. They redirect their time and energy toward their children, their careers, or their personal interests, not as an act of rebellion, but as a form of survival. These new outlets offer a sense of control and personal fulfillment that they no longer find in their marriage. In the worst cases, a woman may come to a painful realization she feels more at peace, more herself when her husband isn't around. This isn't about bitterness or blame. It's about emotional depletion. It's the quiet fracture that occurs when years of imbalance go unacknowledged. This silent shift is one of the major reasons many women, particularly in long-term marriages, find themselves questioning their happiness. They begin to ask hard questions. Is this what partnership is supposed to feel like? Am I truly seen, truly supported? It's a sobering truth, and it highlights the critical importance of open communication, shared responsibilities, and mutual appreciation. When both partners feel valued and supported, the relationship flourishes. But when the balance is lost, when unspoken expectations pile up and invisible labor goes unnoticed, resentment begins to take root. And like a quiet leak behind a wall, that resentment builds over time, quietly undermining the foundation of even the most loving marriage. 3. Dissatisfaction in the intimate relationship. Another deeply sensitive yet vital area where couples often begin to drift is sexual intimacy. While it may be uncomfortable to discuss, it's essential to understand that intimacy isn't just about physical connection. It's about emotional closeness, trust, and mutual care. In a thriving marriage, intimacy reinforces the emotional bond between partners. It's where couples communicate without words, where they reconnect in ways deeper than logic. But as the years pass, many couples experience a noticeable decline in this connection, and the reasons are multifaceted. For many women, physiological changes brought on by aging, especially hormonal shifts during menopause, can significantly impact their interest in physical intimacy. Decreased estrogen levels can result in lower libido, vaginal dryness, discomfort during sex, and general fatigue. These symptoms are not simply inconvenient, they can become emotionally distressing. At the same time, external pressures like work stress, parenting demands, or caregiving responsibilities can further dampen her desire for closeness. When a woman is running on empty, intimacy often becomes the last thing on her mind. Meanwhile, men also face their own changes with age. Decreased testosterone, erectile dysfunction, and lower stamina can all affect a man's confidence and ability to connect physically in the same way. Some men may respond by withdrawing emotionally, becoming more focused on work, or distracted by routine. Others may unintentionally take their partner's presence for granted, forgetting the small gestures of affection that once came naturally. When affection and intimacy disappear, it doesn't just affect the bedroom, it creates an emotional gap that spreads into every other corner of the relationship. Without hugs, kisses, meaningful conversation, or quality time, a woman may begin to feel unseen, unwanted, even unloved. She might ask herself, do I still matter to him? Does he still find me beautiful, desirable? Over time, if her emotional and physical needs go unmet, it can lead to frustration, loneliness, and quiet resentment. And when those feelings aren't addressed, the very foundation of love and companionship begins to erode. The absence of physical affection doesn't just create silence, it creates doubt. Doubt about self-worth, doubt about connection, doubt about the future of the marriage. The solution. It doesn't come from avoidance, it comes from honest, vulnerable conversations. Couples must be willing to talk truly. Talk about their desires, their insecurities, their emotional and physical needs. Sometimes this means seeking professional help. Other times it simply means showing up for each other. Even in small ways, a touch, a compliment, a shared laugh, a meaningful glance. Because the truth is, intimacy takes effort. It evolves. It requires understanding, patience, and a willingness to adapt as both bodies and hearts change with time. 4. Unresolved conflicts and lack of communication. As if emotional labor and physical disconnection weren't enough, another powerful force that quietly dismantles connection in long-term relationships is unresolved conflict and poor communication. In the early days of love, couples are usually eager to talk, to understand, to find common ground. But over time, especially once life becomes more routine, communication can begin to dry up. What once was deep conversation turns into logistical updates. Emotional check-ins are replaced with brief exchanges about chores or schedules. When communication fades, small issues go unspoken. Frustrations are swallowed. Feelings are pushed aside. And although the problems may seem minor, who takes out the trash, how weekends are spent or forgotten. Promises those little issues accumulate. One ignored comment becomes two. One disagreement becomes a pattern. And before long, a wall of silence grows between the couple. For many women, not feeling heard is one of the most painful experiences in a marriage. When she expresses a concern and it's brushed off or worse, dismissed entirely, she begins to retreat inward. Why bother speaking up if her feelings don't matter? Over time, this lack of validation leads to emotional detachment. She learns to protect herself by pulling back, by not expecting anything, and once that emotional retreat begins, the damage is hard to reverse. What's most dangerous is that this pattern often goes unnoticed. To the outside world, everything looks fine. But inside the home, there's silence, distance, bitterness simmering beneath the surface. Eventually, the emotional disengagement seeps into every area of the relationship. Conversations become transactional. Touch becomes infrequent. Connection fades. Even minor disagreements become emotionally charged because they echo a deeper frustration. You're still not listening to me. Whether it's about parenting styles, financial decisions, or unhealed betrayals, unresolved issues can poison a relationship from the inside out. And when couples avoid these hard conversations out of fear or habit or fatigue, they unknowingly allow the gap between them to widen further. When avoidance deepens the divide, many couples fall into the trap of believing that a problem left untouched will eventually fade away. That time alone can smooth over tension. But in truth, emotional avoidance rarely heals, it festers. The more a conflict is left unresolved, the more it lingers in the background, quietly chipping away at the foundation of the relationship. For many women, this manifests as a growing emotional void, a sense that their needs are unmet, their voices unheard, and their emotional presence unnoticed. Even if they are physically present in the same space as their partner, they begin to feel emotionally invisible. The disconnect is palpable, not in loud arguments, but in the quiet discontent, the loss of shared laughter, the absence of meaningful eye contact. This emotional distance often leads to feelings of frustration, sadness, or even contempt. Where there was once warmth, there's now tension. Where there was once intimacy, there's now indifference. The person who once brought comfort and joy now feels like a source of irritation or even emotional weight. And what's perhaps most heartbreaking is how difficult it becomes to find the way back. When open affection and communication have been absent for years, couples may struggle to remember how they once connected. The emotional language they used to speak fluently now feels foreign, rusty, or lost entirely. The longer this persists, the harder it is to bridge the emotional chasm. What may have started as a small, fixable disagreement can evolve into a deep and widening gap, leaving both partners wondering, can this still be saved? In moments like these, it's vital to remember that communication is not just about speaking, it's about listening. It's about creating a space where both people feel safe to express themselves without fear of dismissal. It's about validating emotions even when they're difficult to hear and working as a team to find solutions. Without this kind of intentional effort, a relationship can shift from being a place of comfort to one of quiet pain. And that pain, when carried alone, becomes a burden that no one should have to bear in a marriage. If you're still here, still watching and resonating with these truths, please drop a 2 in the comments to let me know. Your time and presence matter deeply. Thank you for walking through these insights with me. 5. Personal growth and self-awareness. As time passes, life has a way of awakening us to parts of ourselves we may have forgotten. And for many women, especially in midlife, this journey becomes deeply transformative. With age often comes a greater sense of self-awareness, a quiet awakening sparked by life's many transitions. Milestones like children growing up, changes in career, or even just the steady ticking of time prompt a woman to ask questions she may have never allowed herself to consider before. For years, many women devote the majority of their energy to the well-being of others. They become mothers, caretakers, partners, pouring their heart into their families, often placing their own desires and goals on the back burner. But then comes the moment when the house is quieter. The children become independent, and the constant demands that once defined her days begin to fade. What's left is a question that echoes in the quiet. Now, what about me? This space, while initially unfamiliar, offers room for powerful personal reflection. For many women, it marks the beginning of a rediscovery of self. They begin to reflect on who they are outside of the roles they've long fulfilled. They revisit passions once forgotten, reconsider dreams once postponed, and evaluate whether their current life truly reflects who they've become. In some cases, this reflection is triggered by deeper life events, a career change, the loss of a loved one, health challenges, or simply the realization that life is moving faster than they imagined. Suddenly, the finite nature of time becomes real. And with that realization often comes a desire to seek meaning not just in relationships, but in personal fulfillment, adventure, creativity, and freedom. This desire doesn't come from selfishness. It comes from a place of inner truth, a need to live authentically, to explore the parts of themselves they may have silenced for years. And with this clarity, some women begin to reassess their marriages. They may start to question, am I truly happy? Do I feel seen and supported? Has my partner grown alongside me? Or have we remained emotionally disconnected? For those who feel their spouse has not engaged in a similar journey of growth, it can be a painful contrast. She has evolved emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, but her partner may seem stagnant, content to live in routine or ignore the emotional shifts happening within her. And when there is no shared reflection, no mutual investment, the distance can feel insurmountable. What she once tolerated without thought, emotional absence, Lack of appreciation, unspoken frustrations now feels impossible to ignore. Ultimately, this period of personal growth is not about rejection, it's about rediscovery. It's about confronting hidden desires, acknowledging long ignored needs, and embracing the possibility of a life that feels deeply aligned with one's true self. It is a time of liberation, a breaking free from outdated definitions, and stepping into a life of intention. And while the process may be difficult, even painful at times, it offers the gift of clarity, the gift of knowing who you are and what you need, not from others, but from yourself. 6. Changes in physical appearance and attraction. Attraction in a long-term relationship is about far more than surface-level beauty. It's rooted in connection, emotional, psychological, relational. But it would be unrealistic to ignore how physical changes can affect the way a woman sees herself and how she believes her partner sees her. As women age, their bodies change, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. Weight may shift, skin may lose elasticity, lines begin to form where none existed before. These transformations, while completely natural, can stir up feelings of vulnerability. For many women, these physical shifts can feel like a betrayal of time of youth and of the identity they once knew. Even when surrounded by love, they may struggle with self-esteem, silently questioning their desirability and worth. These doubts can become even more painful when they sense that their partner's affection or admiration has faded. Maybe there are fewer compliments. Maybe physical touch has become less frequent. Maybe he no longer looks at her the way he once did. Whether intentional or not, this lack of attention can cut deeply. It reinforces insecurities, it creates distance, and for some women it leads to the heartbreaking belief that they are no longer attractive in the eyes of the person they love most. Of course, men change too. Their bodies, their energy, their emotional presence may shift over time. But for women, especially those who've spent years nurturing others, the emotional toll of feeling unseen can be especially heavy. In long-term relationships, emotional attraction and physical appreciation go hand in hand. It's not about looking young forever, it's about feeling valued, loved, and acknowledged. When a woman no longer feels those things, the result isn't just sadness. It's a quiet erosion of intimacy, one that seeps into every aspect of the relationship. Emotional detachment and the loss of affirmation. When closeness fades and intimate moments become scarce, the absence isn't just felt, it's deeply internalized. Without affectionate gestures, verbal affirmations, or meaningful connection, many women begin to feel emotionally isolated, even if they share a home, a bed, or a routine with their spouse. That isolation quickly begins to erode confidence. A woman who once felt radiant and desired might now question her appearance, her value, even her place in the relationship. In the absence of verbal reassurance or physical affection, she may begin to wonder, am I still beautiful to him? Does he still see me? These insecurities, while often sparked by age-related changes, are magnified by the lack of emotional validation. It's not just about aging, it's about feeling emotionally unsupported during that transition. When her partner is distracted by work personal stress, or simply becomes emotionally distant, the gap between them widens further. What began as a subtle disconnect can spiral into something much more complicated, an emotional landscape where doubt, resentment, and silence replace intimacy, support, and trust. In these cases, navigating attraction becomes a complex puzzle. It's no longer just about physical appearance, it's about how both partners respond to the evolving reality of aging and identity. A lack of communication and effort from one partner can leave the other feeling invisible. Understanding this delicate balance between affection, emotional presence, and self-worth is essential if couples want to maintain a loving and supportive relationship through life's changes. If you're still watching and finding these reflections meaningful, please comment the number 3 below. Your presence truly matters. 7. Financial stress and lifestyle pressures. While emotional and physical connection are vital, there's another silent factor that can weigh heavily on a marriage: financial stress. As couples age, they are often faced with growing responsibilities, planning for retirement, managing household expenses, supporting children through school and early adulthood, and sometimes even caring for aging parents. This financial pressure builds gradually, and over time it can feel suffocating. The looming concern of financial instability can introduce constant stress and anxiety, especially if income is inconsistent or debt begins to mount. Whether it's student loans, mortgage payments, credit card bills, or healthcare costs, many couples find themselves juggling more than they ever anticipated. And when partners aren't aligned on financial goals or spending habits, the tension can become overwhelming. One partner may want to enjoy the present spending on experiences, comforts, or lifestyle upgrades, while the other is focused on saving for the future. This difference in mindset often sparks conflict, with each person feeling misunderstood or disregarded. What's at stake isn't just the budget, it's the shared vision of what their life together should look like. For many women, especially those who manage the family's day to day finances, this misalignment can lead to emotional exhaustion. When a woman is the one handling bills, stretching the grocery budget, ensuring tuition is paid, and calculating long term financial plans without equal effort or concern from her partner, it can create a sense of deep frustration and imbalance. She may begin to feel like the sole protector of the family's future emotionally and financially. And when her partner seems detached, careless, or uninvolved in those efforts, resentment begins to grow. Over time, financial stress isn't just about numbers, it becomes an emotional burden. Women in this situation often experience fatigue from trying to balance work, family household management, and the relentless worry about financial survival. With each month, the pressure builds. Communication may start to break down. Discussions about money turn into arguments. Resentments simmer. Emotional intimacy fades as both partners retreat into defensiveness or silence. Slowly, the relationship starts to feel more like a shared business contract than a loving partnership. Worse still, financial strain often exacerbates existing cracks in the relationship. Tensions about money can stir up older wounds, communication issues, differing values, feelings of inequality, leading couples to fixate on what divides them rather than what connects them. Unless addressed openly, financial stress can quietly destroy the foundation of a marriage. That's why honest dialogue, shared budgeting, and a unified financial plan are essential. Without them, money becomes not just a source of pressure, but a wedge that pushes partners further apart. 8. The need for respect and equality. As women grow older, their understanding of what they need in a relationship becomes clearer. One of the most fundamental needs, respect, not surface level politeness, not the occasional compliment, but true, deep rooted respect, the kind that acknowledges their experiences, their emotions, their contributions, and their voice. In later life, many women enter a period of reflection. They look back on their careers, their sacrifices, their personal growth, and ask, am I respected in this relationship? Am I treated as an equal partner? This reflection is more than philosophical, it's personal. It's about noticing whether their thoughts are heard, whether their opinions are valued, whether their decisions are honored. And when respect is missing, a quiet pain begins to settle in. Respect within a marriage means mutual validation. It means recognizing each other's emotional needs, seeing the effort in household labor, honoring personal choices, and valuing the partnership, not just in chores or finances, but in emotional investment. When a woman feels dismissed, when her concerns are minimized, when her work is taken for granted, when her wisdom is ignored, it doesn't just hurt, it disconnects. Over time, this lack of respect leads to emotional withdrawal. She may stop sharing her thoughts, stop trying to connect, stop expecting things to change, and the relationship begins to shift from something sacred to something functional. This shift is especially painful because as women age, they often become more attuned to the subtle ways society devalues aging, especially in women. If their own partner contributes to that dismissal, even unconsciously, the wound cuts even deeper. Equality in a marriage isn't just about splitting chores or income, it's about emotional partnership. It's about walking through life side by side with mutual care and shared decisions. It's about feeling empowered, not diminished by the person you share your life with. Without respect and equality, a woman may begin to emotionally retreat, not out of anger, but out of quiet sorrow. And that sorrow, if unspoken, becomes the silent killer of intimacy, trust, and connection. 9. The desire for change and new experiences. For many women, midlife marks a turning point, a quiet, powerful awakening. After decades of devotion to raising children, supporting a partner, building a career, and maintaining a household, they begin to sense that something is shifting inside them. There's a whisper, then a longing, then a clear voice asking, is this all there is? This inner yearning isn't about escape, it's about expansion. With children grown and responsibilities shifting, many women begin to look beyond the familiar rhythms of daily life. They find themselves craving freedom, exploration, novelty, and a reconnection with the parts of themselves they once put on hold. For some, this desire reveals itself in a sudden interest in travel to walk through unfamiliar streets, taste new cuisines, or simply be somewhere they've never been before. For others, it takes the form of learning a new language, a creative pursuit, or even going back to school. Some simply want to step outside their comfort zone to rediscover who they are without the roles that once defined them. This longing isn't fleeting. It's a deep, soulful realization that life is finite and that they don't want to spend the rest of it confined to old routines or unmet potential. As they reflect on the years gone by, many women begin to ask, have I lived in alignment with my dreams? Have I been true to myself or only to the expectations of others? These questions can spark a profound shift. They may begin to make changes, some small, others, life-altering in search of fulfillment, purpose, and adventure. But what happens when their partner doesn't feel the same? This is where the desire for change can bring tension into a marriage. If a husband is resistant to stepping outside the status quo, if he clings to routine, avoids discomfort, or dismisses her need for personal growth, it can leave the woman feeling trapped in a life that no longer reflects who she's become. What once felt like a safe and stable partnership may begin to feel limiting. What once brought comfort now brings constraint. She may start to feel emotionally distant, not because the love is gone, but because her partner no longer reflects the version of herself she's growing into. Her need for exploration, reinvention, or self-expression may be misinterpreted as dissatisfaction, selfishness, or rebellion, when in truth it's simply a natural evolution. If her husband refuses to understand or support this journey, the gap between them widens. Conversations may become strained. Efforts to explain may be met with confusion or even resistance, and slowly a sense of loneliness creeps in. She may begin to wonder, can I truly grow within this relationship? Can I become who I'm meant to be if I'm constantly asked to shrink myself to keep the peace? In some cases, this misalignment can lead to deep reflection about the relationship itself. It's not about walking away, it's about walking towards something more authentic. But when growth is unsupported, the question becomes whether the partnership can grow too. For women, the desire for change is rarely about leaving. It's about reclaiming the forgotten pieces of themselves, reigniting lost passions, or creating a life that reflects who they are now, not who they were 20 or 30 years ago. To move forward as a couple, it takes understanding, flexibility, and shared curiosity. When both partners can listen to each other's evolving dreams and make space for change, the relationship doesn't fall apart, it transforms. It grows deeper, more dynamic, more alive. But when change is denied, when one partner insists on staying still while the other is ready to soar, it creates a silent fracture that no amount of routine can repair. The changes that happen in long-term relationships are not just emotional, they're deeply personal, layered, and often shaped by real practical experiences, aging emotional disconnection, unspoken conflicts, financial stress, shifting gender roles, personal growth. All of it plays a role. But here's the good news. These challenges don't have to mean the end of connection. When couples are willing to have honest conversations, when they choose to truly listen to each other, and when they commit to growing together, not just side by side, but heart to heart, they can rebuild a bond that's even stronger than before. So what did you take away from this video? Take a moment to reflect and share one insight in the comments that truly resonated with you. Maybe it's something you've experienced, or maybe it's something you'll carry into your own relationship starting today. And if this video moved you, helped you feel seen, or simply gave you a new perspective, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps us create more content that speaks to the realities of long-term love and the power of growing together. Thank you for staying with me until the end. This conversation doesn't end here. It's only just beginning.